Another edition of Marketing Unleashed. This is going to be a fun show. As always, we'd love for you to spread the love across the interwebs, and we want to make the show all about you. So as we're going today, we have one of, in my humble opinion, one of the best YouTubers out there. I actually go to, we'll talk about this later, but he has an incredible live stream he does every Saturday morning, and amazing YouTubers show up there. But I'm so excited to have Nick Nimmin on the show today. But we would love for you guys to ask your questions. We've got him for like the next couple hour. Did we tell you that it was going to be a 3-hour show? No,
Yeah.
an hour.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah. And so ask him your questions, because, I mean, this is a rare opportunity where you have one of the top YouTubers here on the show. It's going to be exciting. I'm sorry, Lisa, I'm rambling now. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right, Jeff. No, it's okay. I'm excited about our guest today too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so before we get started, I want to
NickNimmin.com.
do a shout out. Some people coming in. Michelle Lopez says, "Hey Nick," she is in the house. Cynthia is saying, "Hey friends." Yeah, this is going to be a
Hi,
crazy
Cynthia.
show. Shelly goes, "I'm down for a 3-hour show with you guys." So
Thank you, Shelly.
thank you, Shelly. But sorry, we can't keep Nick that long. We'd have to pay him real money. So. Before we get started, I want to do a shout out for a new webinar that Elisa actually putting together just today, because she just gave me the link.
Just like, give me the link. I said, well, I kind of need to finish it first, but
Yes. So you can guys go to bit.ly/TW social selling. That's bit.ly/TW social selling. Lisa, tell us what that is all about.
Oh, I'm excited about this one. So it is basically how to go from first impression to rave reviews. So all the points between awareness of your product or service, all the way to the point where you have these raving fans who are telling people about you all over the place. So how do you get there? And even more than that, how do you get there for Instagram, Pinterest, and Facebook, like the big platforms where people are actually buying? So it's broken down by network. And my hope is that people will kind of think about how they're marketing now on social and where maybe there's a soft spot, or maybe they could use some help. Maybe it's in that consideration stage, or maybe it's in the conversion stage, but that they'll take that and translate it across all the networks and make their social just kind of explode.
Awesome. Well, before we get started, I want to introduce, I kind of just gushed about him because I am a fan of Nick Nimmin. You can find him at nicknimmin.com. It's there on the screen. It's nicknimmin.com. I want to say that for the podcast listeners out there. And Michelle even says, listen to Nick. He is the man. We've got Chuck here. Chuck Moran is in the house. He goes, hey, y'all. So this is going to be an awesome show. And Lizzie from YouTube says, hi there from the UK. I have my glass of wine, and I'm ready to learn. So, yeah, I'm already liquored up. So we're good to go here. But Nick Nimmin, if you guys don't know who Nick Nimmin is, he is an amazing YouTuber. He has, once again, you can find him at nicknimmin.com. And he also has the podcast it's called Comments Over Coffee. And you can find that at commentsovercoffee.com/listen. Amazing podcast. But he helps YouTubers and video marketing pros learn and leverage the power of online video. And he knows what he's talking about, because I checked right before the show, and on the channel that I am subscribed to, he has 793,000 subs. So, yeah, he knows what he's doing on YouTube. Nick, thank you for being here today. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me on. Like, I'm super excited to come on here and talk about YouTube. I'm honored that you guys, that you even wanted me on the show in the first place. So thank you for that. And super excited to field some questions today, and hopefully clarify some things some questions that people might have when it comes to YouTube.
So one of the things, Nick, I wanted to ask right off the bat is, like, I know everybody is overwhelmed. Like, we give them this news every week. We talk about social media, we talk about Pinterest, and they're like, okay, one more thing. Why should they spend time with YouTube? I mean, it can stress people out. Like, I got to be on all the platforms all the time. So first of all, tell us why you got into YouTube and why you think other people should kind of focus on it.
For me, I got onto YouTube as a solution to try to build an email list. So I was exploring internet marketing as a way to either supplement income or to, kind of create a new path. And one of the things that I saw in the internet marketing world is people were saying how effective YouTube was for driving emails. And at that point in time, I did not want to be on camera. I just didn't want to be that guy. I was like, I'm like older, at that point in time. And I'm like, YouTube is a kid's thing. And, I had all these things rattling around in my brain. But and plus, in addition to that, I was like, what if somebody that I know ends up running into my YouTube channel? Then they're going to give me a hard time about it. Right. What if like a family member or a friend sees it? They're going to give me a hard time. Like, hey, dude, why are you on YouTube? So, because of that, I had to overcome those hurdles in order to even get on the platform in the first place. But the original goal was simply just to collect email addresses because, just like most people when they start, I had no idea what I was doing. Like when I first started the channel, it wasn't really targeted. I was putting out content inconsistently. I was doing all of the wrong things, but fortunately, one thing that I was good at that point in time was just being able to make things look good and sound good and all of that. So at the very least, I was able to give people a good experience through the content. And fortunately, the way that things were structured and all of that, even though I made tons of mistakes, I was able to, from my very first video, start generating emails, which was, towards the goal. But then I ended up running into an opportunity on YouTube to where I ended up being able to work with somebody that actually knew what they were doing. And that gave me tons of insights. It actually kind of split my road, so to speak, when it comes to YouTube. And I started publishing content started publishing content to a completely different channel. And I was working so hard on that channel, plus my design business at the time. And I just burned out. Like I just couldn't do it all. Mm-hmm. So because of that, I was hooked on YouTube at that point in time based on the experience that I was having on that other channel because it was growing quickly. I was getting a lot of attention from it. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. So because of that, when I came back to my current channel, of course I had to make sure that I had, some things in place to be able to monetize it quicker and things like that so that I could start, going all in on YouTube because I decided that's what I wanted to commit to. So I built a website and started sending people to that website and things like that. And it ended up working out. In terms of why YouTube, in terms of my situation, like I said, it was just one of those things that people were just talking about it. And I was like, wow, it's, this seems to be pretty effective. So, let's give it a shot, even though there were some internal struggles that I won't go into to actually get in front of the camera, in the first place. But, since people are like, hey, I'm getting a lot of success here, I was like, okay, let's give it a shot. And for you, if you are considering YouTube as something that, that you might leverage for your business or just for your, for yourself, if you just want to connect with other people who are into what it is that you're into, it's an amazing platform. And the reason that it's an amazing platform is because, as you probably know, if you are doing any type of marketing or you're putting out content of any kind already, when you put out content on a lot of these platforms like Facebook and LinkedIn and like TikTok, things like that, what happens is you publish a piece of content and then that content really quickly becomes difficult to find. So in the moment when you publish that content, maybe for a very short time after that, the content might do well. If you have something that performs extremely well, then in that case, sometimes it'll surface. But for the rest of us, who don't make that, type of viral related content, it's a lot more of a challenge. And you just stay on that hamster wheel, that grind of just constantly putting stuff out, which you got to do kind of on YouTube as well.
Right.
But the beauty of YouTube is that they have all of these different discovery features. So in addition to YouTube itself being a search engine, it's also a discovery engine. And what I mean by that is if you put together content that people enjoy in terms of they click on it and they end up watching the content for a competitive or an acceptable amount of time, per YouTube's, per YouTube, then in that situation, YouTube will show you on the homepage. They'll recommend you next to other content. If you do end up showing up in search and people respond to you well in search on YouTube, you can also show up on Google and all the other textual search engines that also display video results as well. So you just have all of these opportunities for discovery related around YouTube. And in addition to that, once you actually get your channel going and you start building an audience, YouTube starts releasing additional features for you, things like the community tab, stories, those sorts of things, to where those are additional ways that you can even get in front of even more people. So, the discovery side of YouTube trumps everything that's out there right now, unless you're making viral content. If you're doing viral type content, then of course, YouTube is a win, Facebook is a win, and TikTok is a win. But for most of us, we're not making that type of content. So, for the normal people, I'll say, YouTube is a win. But if you can, if you are, making viral in nature content, YouTube's also a great fit for you as well.
Yeah, awesome. I think I'll speak for myself and some of us listening. We're the normal people. We're not going to come up with the next big dance that's going to go crazy on TikTok. So I'm loving this. Well, I'm not going to speak for you, Jeff.
Okay, well, there you go. 'Cause I'm polishing off my tap shoes. So I wanted to bring up this. Michelle says YouTube is my number one driver to her website. And Shelly goes, I'm clearly in the right place because I have 2 YouTube channels for over a year and neither one has more than 40 subs. So Elisa, that ties right into the question you were going to ask, right at the start. So, what, go ahead and ask that question. I won't steal your thunder there.
Yeah. Okay, great. So the elements of a good YouTube account, and I'm going to out myself here and say that I wrote an article about this about 10 years ago, and I wouldn't remember it except that the hideous Pinterest pin that I made for it is like my top pin forever. So don't ask me how to make a great YouTube account despite that pin. How do you set it up for success? And if I have one, like some of our audience members do, but it's not great, is it okay to change it up, or is that going to mess up discovery? Like, what do you think?
So when it comes to setting up a good YouTube account, or just, kind of preparing yourself for success on YouTube, the very first thing to make sure that you understand, and, most of the people that are watching, if you are a blogger, if you're a marketer, if you're doing any type of stuff online already, you already most likely understand the ideas of making sure that you're targeting a specific audience. So when it comes to YouTube, the same exact rules apply, and I'll explain why. So when you are targeting a specific audience on YouTube, it really helps with things, because the way that YouTube works is that if you have people that are positively interacting with your content, YouTube will find other users on the platform that are using YouTube like the people that are positively interacting with your content, and it will show your content to those people. So as long as you can get those people to click and then they enjoy the content as well, then that whole thing just keeps getting amplified until people, slowly stop responding to the content because they're not as good of a candidate for your particular content or that particular video. So when you're targeting the audience, it helps you in that regard. And it also helps with authority, because that's a thing on YouTube, just like it is in the, in the blog world. Authority is a thing on YouTube, and you start creating a channel that is a resource for a certain type of content for a certain type of viewer. And the win with that is that, let's say that you have a channel and you're publishing a piece of like help content in terms of, let's say it was, how to use tailwinds is like one of the, pieces of content. And then your next video is a vlog. And then you have a gaming video after that. And then after that, you have, your trip to, Florida. Then what's going to happen is people that came in from that Tailwind video, they're going to love that Tailwinds content from you. They're going to subscribe to your channel, and they're going to possibly comment. Maybe they're going to give the video a thumbs up. Maybe they're going to share it with somebody, or maybe they'll click on another Tailwinds video if you put it together in a series. But what's going to ultimately end up happening there is YouTube's going to detect, hey, these people from these Tailwinds videos are really having a great interaction with this channel. So because of that, this next video that's published, we're going to show it to those people first. And then what can happen is the initial response of that video. Now, just to be clear, this is the initial response. Long term, the video can end up being fine, but the initial response, which is really important on YouTube, can really be impacted of your vlog video, because YouTube is going to show it to some of those people that enjoyed that Tailwind video recently. And when it shows that vlog video to them, since they care about Tailwind and they don't necessarily care about your vlog, about your day or your trip to Florida, then in that case, what's going to end up happening is those people aren't going to click, which is then going to impact the performance of that video. And then they're not going to show it to as many people. So when you are focused on a specific audience, then one, it helps in terms of building the channel as a resource for that type of content. But two, it also helps with everything it is that you're doing on the channel. So, just like in every other industry, when you know who it is that you're targeting, you can write your titles in a certain way that's going to, have a deeper impact with the people that you're trying to reach. You're going to be able to make your thumbnails focus on a specific thing that's going to also trigger those people to click that you're trying to reach. The content itself is going to be put together in a way that the people that you're trying to reach, which you'll discover over time with your content, but the way that the people that you're trying to reach respond the most positively to. And because of that, you start fine tuning and crafting everything it is that you're doing on your channel towards that certain type of viewer. And then once you get that figured out, then that's when, all the brakes get pulled off, so to speak. And then you'll see channels just start climbing out of nowhere, because, you've done all of the things for that specific audience, and you've learned how they've responded to your content, and you fine-tuned the content that you're making and how you're able to get people to click on that content based on the things that they care about, because you know your audience and you're targeting that audience with the content. And by doing that, you help YouTube know who it's for. And you also help those people identify that it's for them. And when they come in and they respond positively to the content, then it just keeps amplifying out, until people stop responding to the content.
Awesome.
Wow. You know how this sounds just like Pinterest. I mean, if we have our Pinterest friends here today, right. If you're doing Pinterest SEO and thinking about how to get your target audience to engage with your content, this is applicable. And so if you know that for Pinterest, you can do it on YouTube. And that's why we're super happy Nick is here.
We got a lot of search-minded people here, so that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. One thing that I do want to talk about, if you guys don't mind, is that search-mindedness when it comes to YouTube. Mm-hmm. So the real huge advantage that you have on YouTube that a lot of these other platforms you don't have is, like I was saying before, in terms of when people respond positively, they'll keep showing it to people. So on the discovery side of YouTube, search is really powerful. And unfortunately, because it's so powerful, a lot of people look at YouTube as only a search engine. They look at it like, okay, well, I just need to make sure that I'm optimizing everything for search so that I can show up there. But if you are uploading content to YouTube, I encourage you to, of course, add keywords and things like that to your videos, but make sure that you're not just thinking of search. Make sure that you're thinking like, okay, this is going to show up on home pages. This is going to be getting recommended next to other content. So because of that, when people are looking for anything in search, as you probably already know, when people are looking for something in search, they're looking for the content that you're making, right? So it's easy to get people to click on it. It's easy to get people to come in and to deliver your value to them that way. Where it's hard is when your content shows up on a home page or in a home scroll on a phone, when it shows up in those places and you're competing with a bunch of other content that YouTube is also predicting that particular user is also likely to enjoy. Right. So that's where things get really serious, because if you can get good at that part of it and getting people to click on it from there, then search starts becoming less and less important because you start getting really good at getting people to click there. And let me put it to you this way. Right now, if you were to make a video about something, even if it's a high volume search term, even if it's trending, if you publish a video right now, well, if it was trending, it would be a little bit different. But if you publish a video right now on YouTube, if you were only targeting search and you optimize everything only for search and you're not thinking about, home and suggested videos, then, you might show up in search and sure, you might, end up getting a lot of views over time. However, if you keep that idea in mind of, hey, I'm showing up on home pages and I'm competing against all these other videos that this user is going to be, that YouTube is predicting that these people might enjoy, and you take it from that approach, you can get a lot more views faster if you focus on that compared to focusing on YouTube search. Because in a 24-hour period on YouTube search, there's only so many people looking for stuff. But when it comes to a homepage, they're just going to keep, as long as people keep responding to that video you publish, they're just going to keep showing it to people. So, just keep that in mind when you're optimizing your content.
See, there's cool. The price of admission right there, folks. So, yeah.
You got your money's worth already. But I
you could go first.
So many questions. I can tell we're going to need to do another show.
I know.
If we can get Nick to come back. But
absolutely.
Okay, so I get that. Like, all right, I see in my home feed, I'm going to give myself away here. I'm going to see painting. I'm going to see hair. I'm probably going to see some animals, right? So when you're talking about what YouTube serves up exclusive of search, it could be a million different topics. And if yours is a business topic, how do you make that more appealing than the one that's going to teach you about how to do this thing for your hobby, or is going to make you laugh with an animal video? Like, do you have suggestions specifically on how to make your content the one that people choose to watch, even if other things are like intrinsically more entertaining?
Absolutely. So, okay, the difference between search, and I actually mentioned this example on my live stream last Saturday. I believe it was last Saturday. But one example, just in terms of, putting it into like a real life practice, is because I have an A10 Mini in front of me. And basically the reference here is if you made a video titled How to Set Up an A10 Mini Pro, then in that situation, that's targeted for search. And if that shows up on the homepage, some people might click on it, right? But that one's really intended for search because you're trying to catch people that are looking for, hey, how do I set this thing up, right? So you're actually serving those people after they've already bought it and they're just trying to find that solution, right? However, if you take the approach and you go broad with it and you say, okay, well, I'm not just trying to, like, if I'm trying to reach people that, that are interested in A10 Mini Pros, or that could be, then in that situation, would it be more advantageous for me to talk about after the fact, right? That like, you got it. Now I'm going to show you how to set it up, and they're going to be looking for that. Or do I want to go broad and say, you know what, I'm not just going after people that are interested in the A10 Mini Pro. I'm trying to spread awareness about the A10 Mini Pro. So because of that, I'm going to optimize my title and my thumbnail is something like, this live streaming or this device will change the way you live stream. And then by doing that, what you're doing is you're making it more compelling to a much larger audience of live streamers, which means that you're tapping into a much larger pool of potential viewership. And by making it such a, I don't know if extreme would be the right word for that title, but by making it more of a compelling title, you're also more likely to just get, random clicks off of the homepage from people that are interested in live streaming as well. So, when you're putting your content together, thinking of it from the approach of where am I trying to get attention to this video? But in addition to that, also thinking like, okay, even though I'm making the content about this thing, is there a way that I can do it to where I would be able to tap into a larger audience for this particular thing that I'm talking about? Does that make sense?
Yes. Very cool.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, thank you.
I'm calling an audible on this one because we have questions that we were going to ask. We've got a lot of questions from the audience that I think are really, really good. And I want to make sure that we give them priority because there's some really good questions. So if you ever watched Nick's live stream, he's mentioned a couple times on Saturday, and he mentions his ATM Mini, and you see his setup. He's got this monitor that I lust for every time I see it. And it's moving and it's just him in the studio, and he's got different cameras and stuff, and it can be a little intimidating. And so Pam asks, what kind of equipment do you need to do YouTube? And then Eloise asks, I'm hesitant to start a YouTube channel because I think that it might be a big capital outlay in terms of camera equipment, lighting, etc. So I know you probably get this question all the time because you do have some really cool equipment, Nick, but what do you tell people if they want to get started? Do they have to go buy a camera? Do they need to get a new microphone? What do they need to get started?
Phone. If you have a phone, you have everything you need. So I just made a video, I think it was about a month or two ago, with a guy here locally in Thailand that he got 100,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel within 10 months using just his phone, no microphone, anything, just this. Wow. And what he was doing is he was just running around the city, sharing stuff. And he would also set it up in like in his place, and he would give like news reports on things that were happening here locally, that kind of stuff. And he did everything just using his phone. So one thing that people underestimate is the quality that you can get out of these things. Typically, when people are using their phone for that sort of thing, especially indoors, they'll open it up and then they'll put it on themselves with room lighting, and they'll think, oh my gosh, this looks like garbage, right? Right. But if you are going to use a phone, which you can absolutely do, some things that you can do to level it up for really cheap is you can go to a hardware store. They have work lights that you can get at like Home Depot, for example. Work lights, the entire kit's going to cost you somewhere between $30 and $50. But they're work lights, they'll clamp to anything, the actual holders, and you can clamp those onto a door, onto a chair, onto a closet, whatever it is that you need. And then you get a compact fluorescent bulb, Philips daylight balanced bulb is what you would actually put in there so that it kind of mimics sunlight. And you put that in there, you put some type of diffuser. I use the same exact setup, when I was first getting started. And my diffuser was actually a t-shirt over that bulb, but there's enough space to where I didn't have to worry about heat or anything. But basically just put up a little diffuser so the light's not really harsh hitting you. And just by that, and turning off your room lights by themselves, you're going to be able to control the light. And by controlling the light, you're going to be able to make the footage that comes out of your camera look 1,000 times better. In addition to what you have built into your phone already, there's an app called Filmic Pro. Filmic Pro, they have it, I believe, on Android as well, but I know they have it on iPhone. And basically that allows you to fine tune the details of your phone camera as well. So you can turn your phone, functionally, you can turn your phone into something that operates like a DSLR. Now, of course, and by DSLR, I just mean like a high-end camera that you can adjust everything on. And one thing that is important, though, that you have to keep in mind is that audio is half of the video experience. Right. So if you are going to use your phone, if you're keeping it close, right, then it's not a big deal. If you're just on like selfie type stuff like this and you have it on a tripod. However, if you're going to put it across the room so that you can get more of yourself in the actual shot, then in that case, I do recommend that you spend anywhere from $20 to $100, and you get a lapel microphone that you can plug into your phone as well. And by doing that, then you're going to make sure that your audio is also good in addition to your video quality. So with those two solutions, you're looking at between, depending on how far your phone is from you, you're looking at between, let's say $70 and $150 to really get rolling with what it is that you need. And then from there, of course, once your YouTube channel starts generating income, then you can decide if you even want to upgrade later.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Filmic Pro, Elisa dropped the link here on Facebook, and it's really cool. If you have one of the new, let's say, iPhones, you can actually, force it to use those different cameras, like the wide angle and stuff like that. So it's very, very cool. Yeah. So let's see. Oh, Chuck has a great tip. He goes, the Power DeWise lavalier lapel mic is great, just $40 on Amazon, and will make a big difference. Well, thank you for that, Chuck. That's it's always good to get tips like that. We do have some more questions. That there's a really great one from Emma, and I know this could be a whole show, so we'll try to get it compact a little bit. But Emma asks, how do you find your target audience and serve them well? That's a great question.
So, yeah, the very first thing to do is just think about like what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Because if you think of what it is that you're trying to accomplish with your YouTube channel first, then you're forced to be intentional about everything else it is that you're doing. So, for example, if the thing that you're trying to accomplish is driving traffic to your website, then in that case, you have to think, okay, well, if I'm trying to drive traffic to my website, then who's my website made for? And if my website is made for those people, then what type of content would those people like to enjoy? What do they typically like on my blog, for example? And then from there, you can start just unpacking. Okay, these are the people that I'm trying to get to my website. Or if you're doing this as a business owner, if you're like, hey, these are the type of things that we usually get the most leads from, or the type of people that we usually get the most leads from. So because of that, we're gonna have a YouTube channel. We're gonna target those people. But the idea is to have that goal first. So then you can start thinking of, okay, in order to reach this goal, who is it that I need to make content for in order to, help me be able to achieve this goal by making that content for them that adds value to them, so that they see value in my content in the YouTube channel. And so, of course, they'll follow links and recommendations as I put them out.
Awesome. So another question from our audience. There are so many good ones. This is a good one. I think a lot of people have this question. It's from Libby, and she goes, is it okay to repurpose content that we've shared on other social channels to YouTube? Is there a specific video link that works best on YouTube? So there's kind of two questions there.
In terms of repurposing content, sure, you can absolutely do that. But one thing to think about is that, like, when it comes to YouTube, YouTube is its own thing. And I'm a big fan of respecting each platform. So I know repurposing is definitely a thing, and I know that it is effective. And people should do it. But when it comes to doing it in reverse, I would actually make the content for YouTube first. I mean, I'm a little bit biased, but I would make the content for YouTube first, and then I would take clips out of that content, and then I would distribute those clips across, whatever other social media outlets that you have, instead of taking content that was intended to grab attention on Facebook and then, putting that on YouTube, or taking content from TikTok and then putting that into YouTube, with their music and all that will catch you in a whole bunch of additional issues. But basically just looking at it from the standpoint of, if I'm trying to build a YouTube channel, it's really important to make sure that the content that I have on the channel, because that's what makes things move on YouTube. Like, you're going to see, you can watch video, you can watch my content, you can watch, you can read as many YouTube blogs as you want to, watch as many, tip videos on how to do YouTube and all of that. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to the content that you're making. So if you're taking repurposed content that isn't really that great for YouTube and you're trying to force it into YouTube just so you have content on the channel, ultimately it's going to end up working, not to your benefit. So because of that, I would make sure that you are just being intentional and saying, okay, this content here that we're making, this is for Facebook and these other platforms. This content that we're making here for YouTube is for YouTube. And we're going to use YouTube related language in terms of if we ask people to subscribe and, those sorts of things, telling people to click links in descriptions, that sort of stuff. And then I'm going to take clips out of that and then repurpose that onto the other places, or just leave that for YouTube.
Gotcha.
That's what I would recommend. But I know a lot of people repurpose all different directions, and that's smart, right? It's just with YouTube, like in addition to building the actual content of the channel, you're also using that as an additional asset. And with YouTube, the way that discovery works on YouTube, in terms of you put out a good piece of content, they're just going to show it forever. You can really pull huge opportunity out of YouTube in terms of, just bringing leads or, sales, or just spreading awareness about things that you care about, or connecting with the communities that you care about, if you're doing it as a hobby creator and not somebody that's trying to, use it for business.
Gotcha.
Okay. how important is the actual setup of our account? Like the name that we choose, or like what are the elements that we should worry about on our account or channel, and which ones do we not need to worry about?
So you absolutely need to go through your settings. I have a video on my channel about, specific settings because there's a lot in there. Most of it is okay by default. But within that, of course, you want to make sure that you set it up so that when people do land on your channel page, most of the people are just going to interact with the video content itself. But you will have overflow that your channel page as well, to where they just want to find more content or they just want to see what else you're doing. And because of that, you just want to look at your page and say, does this represent me or our company in the best way that, we want it, that we want people to perceive what it is that we're doing? If the answer is yes, then you're on the right path. But at the very basics of that, you want to make sure that you have a channel art. You want to make sure that you add sections to your channel page as well. With the sections, what those are is they're essentially playlists that you put together. And with those playlists, if you just have one video, then you don't do this yet. But once you get a decent amount of videos, let's say, 20 videos, 30 videos, then you start putting these things together where you have the playlists, and then you basically put those playlists as sections on your channel page. And you think of it from the perspective of the people that I'm trying to reach and the thing that I want them to come to my YouTube channel for, the specific playlist that I'm making and how I'm putting these on my channel page. How exactly am I putting these in a way to where it's going to help people find the content that they care about in the easiest way possible? And another thing that you really want to make sure that you're thinking about when you're also optimizing your channel page as well is you want to think about mobile viewership, because most of the viewership on YouTube happens on mobile devices. It's like 70+%. So because of that, you want to make sure that you're looking at everything it is that you're doing on YouTube on a mobile device as well, because that will also change how you're displaying your playlists. So like when you look at it on a phone, what you're going to see is at the very top, you're going to see your channel art, but then you're going to see an uploads playlist or whatever playlist you have up there at the very top. And on a phone, if you start scrolling, you're going to notice like you go through a lot of videos before you get to the next playlist. So because of that, you don't want to show content like, hey, these are testimonials for our company. You don't want to put those at the front, because those are things that don't really add value to the viewers themselves, because they're not coming there to watch tutorials most of the time. They're coming there for, or not tutorials, I'm sorry, but testimonials. They're coming there for, the content that adds value to them. So because of that, focusing, the flow that they're going to go through when they are scrolling through your channel around that experience that helps them find what matters to them fastest is going to be the best way to set that up. But in addition to that, you want to make sure that you're adding playlists on a regular basis. If you are using playlists and you're publishing content to YouTube, instead of thinking of your YouTube channel and the content you're publishing as one video at a time, think of it as you're publishing content in sets. So instead of publishing one video, you're actually planning ahead like 4 or 5 videos, and those videos are going to become part of a series. And when you put those videos into a playlist, you actually mark that playlist as a series playlist. And then that tells YouTube that those videos are related to each other in some way, which then YouTube is more likely to show the content in that playlist next to other videos in that playlist when people are watching it as well. So you want to make sure that you're doing those sorts of things. If you're trying to generate leads and sales from YouTube, from a setup standpoint, then you also want to make sure that you have the links on your About Me page, and that you have your About Me page fully filled out as well on your YouTube channel. And you want to make sure that you're also adding those links in your description of every video that you publish also, so that if anybody goes down to your video description, or if you drive people down to your video description by letting them know and spreading awareness that you have a link to whatever it is that you're trying to bring awareness to in your description, then more people will go down there and click on the links that you have. But you want to make sure that you do put links to anything that's important that you're trying to bring attention to down in your description as well.
Awesome. Here's a question from Nurturing Minds Consulting. Says, how many videos should we put in one series or a playlist?
If you're making shorter content, then you can put more videos. If you're making longer videos, then you can put shorter, then you can put, less videos in there. The idea is to think about, okay, if somebody is, watching my content, let's say, just for example here, let's say you have a meditation channel, and on that meditation channel, you put out hour-long videos that people can meditate to, or they can fall asleep to. In that case, then, putting together, like a series of like 5 1-hour videos doesn't make a ton of sense. However, if you have little, like 5-minute meditation sessions, or just 5-minute videos that you have on your channel, then of course, you could squeeze together 5 of those, because the tolerance as somebody's going through that list, a lot of people will have, 20, 25 minutes that they can blow on a playlist, but they don't have 5 hours that they can waste on a playlist. So because of that, just think of, this is about the length of content content that I'm putting out. People typically watch my videos for about this long anyway, which you can see inside of your audience retention reports and your YouTube analytics, which is really important, by the way. And you should definitely pay attention to that because that's how the masses respond to what it is that you're doing. But basically, when it comes to your playlist, though, just think about, okay, one, am I getting people to complete my videos in the first place? If I am, then in that case, let me try getting people through 3 videos. If I can get people through 3, then, let me try to, get people through 5. But just thinking it through, in some cases, you might only need 3 videos. In some cases, you might need 5. So using myself as an example, if I had I could put together a playlist on how to make YouTube videos, and that playlist could be, 10 different 10 different videos in that particular playlist, because they would all be related to how to make YouTube videos. And that would also be marked as a series playlist as well. However, I could also put together a playlist of just, 3 ways that you can make money off of YouTube. And then, they could watch all 3 of those videos within that playlist, of, learning the depths of how to, make money from YouTube in each of those 3 videos.
Gotcha. So, by the way, we've talked a lot about and we've got some questions about selling and everything like that. But I want to make sure before we forget that Elisa just right before we started finished this project that you guys need to go sign up and check out. It's a free webinar. You can go to bit.ly/TW social selling. That's bit.ly/TW social selling. Go check that out. Sign up for it. It's amazing because it's Elisa. I mean, come on.
Oh,
there you go.
Thank you.
So one of the questions that I was going to talk to you about is that a lot of people, you mentioned live streaming, and we've talked about you have an incredible thing that you do every Saturday morning on YouTube. A live stream. So do you consider live streaming a separate animal? And I know one of the questions is what would you go back and change if you had to do it all, tell yourself? And funny enough, you did a video about a week ago on your channel about exactly that. It's what you would do differently. And one of the things you said on that was that you would have live streamed earlier. And I know a lot of YouTubers think that's kind of a separate thing and it's different and they're scared to do it because they're going to jack up the algorithm and all that stuff. What say you about that?
If people respond positively to your live streams, you'll be fine. If you live stream and it's not related to the content that you have, or if it's just kind of like a hangout where you're not really giving any real value and people don't hang out in your live stream, then of course that's going to be a piece of content that just people aren't going to respond to, and that's going to be reflected in the results that you get from your live streams. In terms of it impacting the rest of your channel, you're fine as long as, like I said, you keep things, you just keep in mind, because like I said before, knowing who it is that you're reaching is a really important side of it. So part of that is, if you know who it is that you're reaching, you're putting out content that matters to them in video format, but that means that you're also live streaming about things that they care about as well. And since you're live streaming about things that they care about, then of course they're going to be more likely to hang out. They're going to be more likely to be involved in your live stream because you're adding that direct value through your live stream as well, versus you completely change it up and you're like, hey, I just want to hang out and cook with you guys when normally you come here to learn about social media. Today we're just cooking. Then in that case, those people, just aren't going to respond as well because that's not what they actually, come to you for. So some people will. Some people will be like, oh, yeah, I didn't know they could cook. This is great. For the masses, they're going to come in. They're like, oh, wait a minute. I usually come here for this, or, this isn't what I expected. So I'm out of here. And then that will hurt the performance of your live stream. But for me personally, the reason that I would have started live streaming sooner is just because I love it. Absolutely love live streaming. I love doing stuff like this. I just love the energy that comes from, all of this stuff. Like being live to me is like magic, because like with video content, you can polish it up. You can take out words. You can, if you screw up, not a big deal. You just retake the clip. But when you're live, like you really have to pay attention. Yeah, as you guys know, like when you're live, you really have to pay attention because it's easy to say the wrong thing. It's easy to go off track and that sort of thing. So so because of that, it's definitely a totally different animal compared to video content.
So and the interaction with our friends who are here is just it really does give you more energy. Yeah.
So it's funny, and he has, I don't know if you saw on his shirt or not, I'll blow up his camera again, but Nimmin is his that probably came from your live stream, and that is probably the best hashtag ever. So that's what his fans, and they're all part of the Nimmin, and I think that's your Facebook group too that I joined, that your like a subscription-based thing. It's very, very cool. So this is a great question from Lizzie, and it's she goes, Nick, where do you store the videos you make? Do you back them up somewhere? Because that's a lot of data. Because we are giving that content to YouTube, and if you're smart, you probably have a backup plan. So what is yours?
Two backups with a double backup on the like local side. So one backup goes to Dropbox, and that is because that's like because I have somebody that edits my videos. I actually have a video editing service as well, but basically for the people that edit the videos, or for the guy that edits the videos, I just upload everything to Dropbox for him. He puts everything together, and then he also uploads the final to there as well. So we have everything backed up on Dropbox. But in addition to that, I also have the local backups where I have everything on hard drives and all that. So I use the just small, like Western Digital type hard drives that you can get and just plug them in via USB. I use those. And I also use actual hard drives. I have a little dock, and that dock makes it to where you can just slide multiple hard drives into it. And you can also clone them. So what I'll do is I'll get like a 6 terabyte hard drive, and then I'll drop it in there, and I'll just keep pushing stuff to it until it's filled up. Once it's filled up, I'll drop another hard drive there so it'll clone. So then I have 2 versions of it. And then I have this like plastic case that I get for them. And then I'll just put them in the shelf over there, and then they'll just stay stocked in there until I need them. To be honest, for my type of content, I don't need the backups. Like they don't really, do anything for me. And for a lot of types of content, you don't really need them. But they are good to have just in the event that, something happens to your channel or a new platform pops up and you're like, sweet, I got all this content, already.
Right.
Mine, because I'm really YouTube specific with what it is that I do. So really, I don't really need the backups, but I know a lot of people do. But the hard drive solution with the Dropbox backup has worked out great for me. Gotcha. I learned that the hard way. Before I ever started my YouTube channel, I made 10 videos just comfortable on camera and all of that. Put them all together, published 2, and I had 8 more in the queue. And I was cruising my motorbike around. I used to work in coffee shops, so I'd take my laptop. I'd go hang out at Starbucks and put my videos together there. And I was coming back, and I got in an accident. And when I fell, the hard drive, I landed on it or whatever, and broke that hard drive. So I had to start fresh on those videos. And I was like, oh no, I have to publish tomorrow. What am I going to do? I had to put together a video and all that kind of stuff. So
wow. So Susanna asked this question, and this is a good one. It's like, I'm thinking about starting a YouTube channel, beginning crochet tutorials, but there's lots of competition out there. So what do you tell people? They say like, I really want to talk about this, but I know that there's all these other people doing it. How am I going to even be discovered or fit in, or all those questions?
The very first thing that's really important to know is that YouTube is hard. Like it is hard. There's a lot of stuff that you have to do. And, in some cases, people will get going right away and people will start responding right away. In other cases, people have to figure it out and it can take some time. So understand that. But beyond that, nobody is going to do crochet tutorials like you do. So because nobody's going to do crochet tutorials like you do, you will collect an audience of people, or you'll grow an audience of people who like to learn from you, who like the way that you do things, who like the specific things that you crochet in terms of the choices that you make when you're putting videos together. They'll like the pacing of your communication. They'll like, the specific way that you speak. They'll like, everything about what it is that you're doing. And those are the people ultimately that you're trying to reach, is the people that resonate with you in some way. So when it comes to competition on YouTube, a lot of people look at it as, well, if I start making videos, then I'm going to have all this competition, and it's probably not worth it because I won't be able to get views. But it's actually the opposite, because a really big win on YouTube in terms of how the system works is if you start putting out content and people respond positively to that content, then what YouTube's going to eventually uncover is that you're having some people that are watching your crochet content that are also watching crochet content from, channel A, B, C, and D. And people on channel A, B, C, and D haven't seen your crochet content yet, but man, the people that have watched those channels and have watched yours, they really love your crochet content. So because of that, YouTube will start suggesting your content next to some of those other, some of the videos on the other channels. And then you'll be able to start actually pulling views from the competition as well. So that's one of the beautiful things about YouTube, is that there isn't really competition for anything, because you have your certain audience that you get to connect to, and then all of the other videos on YouTube about the thing that you do are also going to be things that you can tap into for traffic to bring viewers into what it is that you're doing as well. So yes, it's absolutely competitive in terms of a lot of people doing a similar thing, but like I said before, I mean, the awesome thing is that, when you're making the content, you're doing it your way, and people are going to respond to the way that you do it. So, because of that, if you're considering it and you're like, man, I'd really like to, share, what it is that I love about crocheting with the world, then I really encourage you to at least give it a shot.
Okay.
So got all that, Lisa? You got it?
I got it all in there. So I think a lot of us are in the situation where we're either starting or we're restarting. And I know we kind of asked, like, what are some rookie mistakes? And I think you said, you'd go live sooner. What are some other rookie mistakes that you can help us to avoid?
The audience thing is really important. So when I first started, I didn't really know who I was after. I was just like, hey, people said this was going to be a thing that would help me get emails, so let me do that. And I didn't, there wasn't like a clear path. But once I had a clear path, then that really started accelerating things because every decision, was based on that path. So, making sure that you know who it is that you're trying to reach, but also making sure that you deeply understand what it is that you're doing it for. Both of those things are really important when you're, going onto YouTube or just when you're doing anything really. so because of that, you want to make sure that you're applying those things to YouTube. Also, when you're first getting started, it's really important to pay attention to how people are responding to your content. YouTube gives us something for every single video. It's called your audience retention reports. And that shows you second by second how people respond to everything it is that you're doing in your videos. So what that does is that shows you, hey, when I do these things in my videos, people end up leaving. So because of that, in the next videos that I publish, I'm going to experiment with not doing those things and see if people will watch for a longer period of time. And then you'll start to uncover the things that will make your content better for the people that are interacting with it, right? So digging into that kind of stuff is important. However, getting caught up on when you're first getting started, and a lot of people make this mistake and it causes them to quit, unfortunately. But when people are first getting started, the expectations that they have about the results that they're going to get are typically very misaligned. And the reason that they're very misaligned is because when you go onto YouTube as a viewer, you are seeing content that is already proven to perform in some way. That's why you're seeing it. That's why they're showing it to you.
Right.
So for that, you have this expectation like, hey, this video's got, 300 views on it or 1,000 views on it or 10,000 views on it. So when I publish a video, I should get 300 views or I should get 1,000 views or 10,000 views. And it kind of creates that expectation. And in some cases you will get, results like that or better. But in most cases, what's going to happen is you're going to publish, your first handful of videos and they're probably not going to do that amazing. And what ends up happening is people are like, oh, great. What am I doing this for? Why am I putting this energy in here? What's going on? Why am I wasting my time? And then they'll just close everything down, not realizing that, they could have been one video away from things going awesome on the channel, or just not realizing that, hey, maybe YouTube just hasn't found the right audience for your content yet. Because, one thing that happens is when you publish videos, they show your content to people all over the platform trying to figure out who's a great fit for that content. And when they're showing it to all those people, sometimes they nail it, sometimes they don't. And especially when you have a new channel, the likelihood of them not nailing it is much higher because there's a couple of different things going on. One, they don't have data on your channel. Like on my channel, I've got, tons of videos on my channel. So they have an idea when somebody comes onto the platform, they start interacting with YouTube, they have an idea of if that person's going to be a good fit for my content or not. When it comes to somebody that's just getting started and they have 10 videos on a channel, there's not that much data behind them. So because of that, YouTube doesn't have, tons of information on who might be a great fit for a specific piece of content. And because of that, they just might show your videos to people that just don't respond to them, anyway. And it might not even necessarily be your fault. So because of that, just thinking of it from the perspective of, I'm going to commit to a certain amount of time instead of, hey, if I don't get, a certain amount of views in the first 3 videos, then I'm out of here. Just say, hey, I'm going to commit to this for, 6 months or a year. And within that time, I'm going to publish, a video a week or 2 videos a week, whatever your schedule is. And I'm going to commit to learning, and I'm going to commit to really understanding what it is that I'm doing and learning the back end of my YouTube channel so that I can learn how to make better content for people by using my audience retention, by using information that YouTube gives me on like how many people are clicking on my end screens, which are basically the little boxes that pop up at the end of the video. But, things like that to where, when you learn those things, then that helps give you you'll be able to actually chart like, hey, things are going better. Things are going better now because you'll be paying attention. But in addition to that, you're focused on making better content for the people that you're trying to reach while you're, getting started, instead of focusing on like, oh, I've only got 100 people subscribed to my YouTube channel and I've been doing this for, 3 months. Right. So when you focus on like, okay, the first year, the only thing that I'm going to focus on is how can I make each video better than the last one based on whatever. If it's a lot or if it's a little bit of information that YouTube gives me, I'm going to use that as kind of like my guiding light so that I can learn to make better content for people. And in addition to that, spend that year, in addition to learning how people respond to your content and how to, modify your content around that, also spend that year really working on your skill sets in terms of, I got to learn how to edit videos, or I got to have somebody else do it. I got to learn how to actually use any equipment that I have. I got to learn how to present on camera if you're actually going to be on camera, or if you're going to be doing any type of voiceovers, because you don't have to be on camera. Like you can just do like an overhead shot of something, like if you're crocheting, for example. But like how am I going to actually talk in my videos, and how can I, just engage with people better through just my general communication? You're going to have to work on, those sorts of things. You're going to have to learn how to make thumbnails as well. And of course, just like, for the blog world, if you were starting a blog today, it'd be the same exact thing. You got to learn how to write, headlines and titles that are going to grab attention as well. So, just working on those skill sets and just looking at it as this first 365 days, this is skill development. This is, learning the system. This is learning how people respond to my content. And I'm going to put, all of my eggs into that and not focus on, like how many subscribers or how many likes I got on a video. Those things matter, but the thing that really matters and that will really make the channel do well and your content do well over time is that core part of making good content and getting people to click on that content.
So I've noticed that every time I show my face that my retention goes in the toilet. So I'm going to take a cutout of Elisa's face and just like have that there.
That.
So I'm going to do that way.
A little eye hole.
Yeah, exactly. I think the people would really enjoy that.
The bottom of it.
Yeah, so that'd be good.
Word. Frightening.
So this is a great question from Lizzie over on YouTube. She goes, do you think YouTube Shorts are a good way to start? And I know you've got a bunch of stuff on your channel, and I know your brother does too. But what would you tell Lizzie about YouTube Shorts?
If you are not doing anything else on YouTube and YouTube Shorts will be a way to get you onto the platform, then yes. But one thing that is really important to make sure that you are considering, even, with YouTube Shorts, is that part that I mentioned before about knowing what it is that you're in it for and knowing why it is that you're uploading content. Like if you're uploading content just for the sake of growing a channel and nothing else, then Shorts is great. But if you're trying to drive leads, sales, things like that, then it's important to make sure that you can absolutely do that from Shorts, by the way. But just to make sure that the shorts that you're putting together are going to end up being in alignment with any long form content that you publish to the channel and in alignment with any live streams that you do on the channel and that sort of thing. So if I put that into real life, one way to look at that is if you're making entertainment content, like, hey, we're gonna do this amazing trick shot, into a basketball hoop from like a mile away through a cannon, right? Like that type of content, excellent for Shorts. However, if you're doing a piece of content that is like, hey, this is how I adjust the scroller on my mouse, then that's a totally different experience for people. So because of that, just make sure that whatever content it is that you are publishing, that you're considering, like, is this right for Shorts? Or should I just go ahead and make this a shorter video, but make it, like a longer form, horizontal video instead of a vertical one?
One thing we did talk about this a little bit on, let me pull this off. Why is that still stuck on there? There we go. So one of the things we've talked about before, and we talked a little bit about repurposing, but one of the things I found with Shorts is like, I'll take, like, say from this show, Nick gave a really good under minute answer to a question about something really strategic about YouTube. I will chop that up and make it a short, but I'll also make that on Pinterest, an idea pin, because that work, I put a little cover thing on it, and those get tons of views and engagement. And a lot of you have talked about how can we use YouTube and Pinterest together. That is probably one of the best ways to do it if you're making content that way. They don't really compete because there's no link on an idea pin going back to YouTube, but you're able to take the content you made for a short and use it in another place. And I think that really works really, really well. So we have time probably for one more question. And let's see, I want to get a really good, this is a great one. So it was about dripping content out. So I have a lot of videos, but not published it yet on my YouTube channel. Should I drip them or put them all in the same time on my channel?
Drip them. Yeah, drip them. And if you already have pre-made content that might end up working against you. And the reason I say that it might end up working against you is because that audience retention thing that I was talking about before, you might find when you start publishing some of that content that people love it, and then they watch, that you catch them at the beginning of the video, and that they end up watching through the whole video. You might find that. If that's the case, then you don't have anything to worry about. You just keep publishing content. And with YouTube, just as a heads up, you can actually schedule content as well. So you can just load all that content in there and say, okay, well, I'm just going to schedule this out, for the next 3 months or 6 months or whatever it happens to be. But another thing to think about, though, from that audience retention standpoint, because performance is everything on YouTube. If your videos don't perform, then people don't see them. So because of that, you have to make sure that what it is that you're publishing is competitive for the platform. So one thing that might end up working against you is if you start publishing some of that content to YouTube because you already have it, and then you find out like, hey, we're doing all these things in the videos that are causing people to leave the videos. If you have content that's already like published and ready to go, then you might need to go in and edit some of that content so you can kind of work around some of those problems that you might uncover in your analytics. So because of that, since you do have that content, if you do have the ability to edit it if you need to, then in that case, I would publish like a handful of videos. Like on your first, like when you first start publishing the channel, publish like the first like 2 or 3 days back to back, just so you can link those pieces of content together through the end screens, and then just put yourself on a regular schedule. Let's say a video a week, or 2 videos a week, or 3 videos a week, depending on how much content you have or that you want to publish. And then just keep that consistent as long as you possibly can. But of course, you just have to make sure that you're paying attention to how people are responding to the content so that you can make any adjustments if you need to the pre-existing content that you're going to be uploading to YouTube.
Awesome. Well, before we go, I want to make sure you guys do not forget that to go to see Elisa's amazing webinar, bit.ly/TW social selling, bit.ly/TW social selling. But I also really want you to go and check out Nick Nimmin, because this is a great quote from Michelle. She goes, "I have been a Nick fan and member for years. He has he's the reason I've grown. Take notes and follow and sub to him. I have to go. Thanks, Nick, for sharing with everybody." Yeah. So if you want like a masterclass on YouTube, show up to his live thing that he does every Saturday morning. You can subscribe to it on his YouTube channel, and make sure you guys go to nicknimmin.com and just click on all the things, because Nick is amazing, and he's helped so many people out so many times. So Nick, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, and super awesome talking to you guys today. I hope there's some type of value pulled from this.
Yeah,
and,
so much.
Have an awesome rest of the day for hanging out.
And would you guys do me a favor and go to, he's got Comments Over Coffee podcast, and you can just go to commentsovercoffee.com/listen, but go and subscribe and leave him a rating and review over on Apple Podcasts. That really does help podcasts out. We have a podcast as well, and you're welcome to do that to ours, but really, it really does make a big difference to podcasters. So leave him a rating and review over there at Comments Over Coffee and help him out that way. And with you guys, thank you guys so much. I see all your comments. You guys are amazing. Thank you, Nick. And Elisa, as always, you get the last word.
Awesome. This is probably my favorite hour of the work week, and it's because we get to talk to brilliant people like Nick. So thank you, Nick, for being here. And the other part of that is because you all and the audience are so engaged and just curious and wanting to learn. So thank you so much for what you do and how you're helping each other in the comments. And Jeff, you're not so bad either.
Well, I'll try. And share this out to your friends. They can watch the replay. We'll be in there dropping links and talking to you guys too. So with that, we'll see you guys next week. Bye now.